Hello, HERkys Voice listeners. I'm excited to share with you that the University of Iowa Athletic Department will celebrate the 50th anniversary of Title IX, hosting HERkys Walk on Saturday, May 7th at our University of Iowa Francis X. Kreitzmeyer track. This event will celebrate 50 years of Title IX and all of those who have been committed to providing equitable access to sport for girls and women. The 50-minute walk will be accompanied by activities that educate and celebrate 50 years of Title IX. The event will also be a kickoff to a year-long celebration of 50 years of women's athletics at the University of Iowa. For more information on HERkys, the Hawk Walk, our HERkys community, and events surrounding 50 years of Title IX and 50 years of Iowa women's athletics, visit hawkeyesports.com/HERkys. And now, back to this week's episode of HERkys Voice.
This is HERkys Voice, a conversation with special Hawkeye guests focusing on the stories and people behind Hawkeye athletics. Now, here's the host of HERkys Voice, Iowa women's tennis coach, Sasha Schmid.
Welcome to HERkys Voice. This week, we get to feature our University of Iowa softball team. I had three extraordinary women join me for a roundtable discussion. We had softball players Briley Klosterman, Brianna Vasquez, and Kalena Burns join me. We had a wonderful discussion where I got to learn more about each of their personal stories and journeys to the University of Iowa, why they chose the sport of softball. And we had so much in common when we talked about our seasons, and I appreciate how vulnerable they were to talk about collegiate athletics and the highs and lows that you go through. Both tennis and softball had historic seasons last year, but have had seasons that haven't produced the results that we all wanted. And yet we are very proud of our journey and what we're going through. And there were so many parallels between the softball and tennis seasons that we really had a lot to share. I was especially touched by their vulnerability and honesty when talking about mental health. This was such a great conversation, and I think a conversation that really sheds light on the holistic experience of collegiate athletics and how we normally are highlighting great moments and highlights which deserve to be recognized and celebrated, but it's also all of the moments that provide a full experience for our Hawkeye women, and sometimes learning how to get through the tough times can be the most valuable lesson of all. Take a listen to Briley, Brianna, and Kalena. Welcome to HERkys Voice. Really excited about this episode this week. We're having a chance to feature our softball team and learn a little bit more about their season. And three of the players that are on the team have joined me today at Carver Hawkeye in our podcast room. I know you guys are busy and I believe just came from weights and are about ready to take off on another road trip next weekend. But before you guys leave, you're making time to come in and tell us a little bit about your stories. Welcome to HERkys Voice. I want to welcome in Briley. Welcome to HERkys Voice.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Brianna, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
And Kalena, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, you guys. So one of the things that we always have a tradition of starting is just getting to know a little bit more about each of you. I was thinking, Briley, do you want to kick us off? Maybe tell us a little bit about your story, where you're from. I know you're kind of a hometown girl and how you came to Iowa.
Yeah, so growing up here, I've obviously always wanted to come here. I mean, it was my dream. I've grown up going to football games, softball games, everything. So I think this was one of my top schools just to be able to represent my hometown. I started getting a little bit of exposure in high school. Nothing really happened.
Which high school did you go to?
Oh, I went to Iowa City West High for a year, and then they opened up Liberty High. So I went there my last 3 years. At Liberty, I was the oldest player as a sophomore, so that was a big challenge for me, but I think it prepared me a lot for what was coming ahead. I had to lead a team at a young age, so that, I mean, it really challenged me to become more mature, be able to have an impact on people. So I started getting a little bit of exposure then. And then I actually came to a camp here with the new coaches when Coach Gillespie and Coach Prater came in. And they asked me to come on a visit. I ended up going on a visit, and then things just took off from there. It was really quick. I wasn't expecting it because it was my junior year of high school. I also worked a lot with Gail Blevins. She was the old softball coach here. So she was a huge reason of why I am here today, because she had a good relationship with my coaches. She's the reason I'm here right now. So, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the different positions you've played and what type of role you're in currently for the Hawks.
So I'm left-handed, so I don't have many options. I've played outfield, and outfield my whole life. So, I've played everywhere in the outfield, obviously, but right now I am in center field.
Okay, very good. And so would you say, like, in your list of mentors, how high is Gail Blevins?
Oh, she's pretty high at the top. She's just a great human in general. Like, I'd come in a maybe bad mood, and she's like, we don't even have to do anything. You can sit here and talk to me. Like, she was very high on the mental game, keeping our, like, mental health right before we could do anything else. So I think just even life lessons she taught me, not even about softball. And I still text her when I'm struggling or need something. So she's a very important person in my life.
Oh, I love that. And I've heard Gail listens to HERkys Voice, so you've given her a shout out. I've always wondered, so when you grow up in town, has it been a different experience coming to the University of Iowa? Because you really can just about 15 minutes go home and do laundry.
Oh, yeah, I go home a lot, which sometimes isn't the greatest thing. But, I always am like, oh, my God, I don't know how you people come all the way here like you two. I'm like, I cannot do that. I'm home for dinner, home-cooked meals. I'm like, I almost feel bad. But, yeah, I think it's just been very telling. Like, a lot of people that do come to the games, like, I know most of them. So that's also, sometimes I feel the pressure from it, but it's also super exciting being able to have my family just drive 15 minutes down the road to come to a game rather than having to travel to everything. And I think just wearing the Tiger Hawk gives me a greater meaning, knowing that I've been a Hawkeye fan my whole entire life.
For sure. And we have another connection. I was telling you before we started recording. So my brother played baseball here with your uncle, Wes Obermueller.
Yes.
Isn't that fun?
That's very fun.
So I would go to games because I would go watch my brother. And so being able to see him play at Banks Field. Yeah, very cool. We're all kind of in this Hawkeye community, which I love.
For sure.
Okay, I loved hearing that. Okay, Brianna, your turn. You're a Cali girl.
I am, yes. So I'm from Norwalk, California, and I kind of have a different background than Briley. Like, I didn't start here in Iowa. I was originally at UCF in Florida. I did my freshman, sophomore, and junior year there. So I transferred here. And basically how that happened was Coach G actually recruited me at UCF when she was there. So my freshman year, she was the one who picked me up at UCF while she was still there. So we've always had that connection. So when I made the decision to go into the transfer portal, she was one of the first people to contact me, and I had already been in contact with her. So she had asked me to come on a visit to Iowa, and it was really fun. I was by myself though. My parents didn't get to join along, and it was in summer, so nobody was here, but it was really nice to see everything, and the weather was nice before I experienced the winter for the first time. So that was that. But she's a big part of why I'm here, because she recruited me at UCF. So it was really nice. And being here in Iowa it's been a lot of fun. It's completely different, something brand new for me.
Well, yeah. From Cali to Orlando to Iowa City.
Yeah.
Completely different places. When you came here on your official visit, sometimes it feels like home?
Yeah. So when I came on my visit, it was summer, so it was really hot. So I didn't feel the cold or anything, but I was telling my parents this. I did go on other visits to different schools, but when I was on those visits, in the back of my mind was Iowa. That's all that I was thinking about, really. So that's kind of how I knew, I want to go to Iowa. So that's pretty much how that happened. But the transition it was hard in the beginning. It was really hard, starting over all over again, making new friends. I was scared I wasn't going to make the connection with people, but it's been really nice.
So tell us a little bit about what position you play, what softball's meant to you, mentors. I love hearing all that.
So I'm a pitcher, just how Briley's outfield. I'm pitcher only. I don't hit. I don't play any other position, just strictly pitcher. So there's that. And mentors for me would definitely have to be my older sister. She played softball. She started in Manhattanville in New York went to JUCO, and then finished off at the University of Miami in Ohio. So she's been like a very big role model for me, just the way she's been and how she handles herself. I aspire to be her. Like, she's just an amazing person. She's always there for me. Like, if I'm struggling with softball, like, I know I can go to her because she's been through the same thing as me. So there's that. And of course, my parents, like, they've always been here, and like the transition from transferring and stuff, like, they've been like the biggest supporters ever. And it's like really, I'm happy to have them in my corner.
What's the mental game like in pitching?
Oh, that is the mental game. Oh my God. When you become a pitcher, you have to be ready to take on the like mental side of it. 'Cause there's a lot of games where like, so basically you have the ball the whole entire time, and like, it's just like a lot of pressure, but you have to like live in those moments and really like take a step back and be like, hey, like, you're doing this for a reason, and there's like a reason you're here. So like a big thing for me is like when I'm on the mound, if I'm not like taking my breath, like if I'm speeding up, things are going to get tough. So just remembering to take your breath and stuff, like, it's really important, especially as a pitcher, but just knowing that you have like your teammates behind you. Like, it's not just you, you know, you have the hitting, you have the defense, you have everything behind you. And that's like really important to know that you're not going to have there's times where like your stuff isn't going to be on, but knowing that you have your defense and offense and everything it's really helpful.
Do your parents get to come out and watch? Have they been to some games live?
They have. My dad came in the fall. Thankfully, we took a trip to California. Whole family was there. I'm talking like godparents, my parents' friends from work, like everyone was there. And my sister recently came out to the Minnesota game. So it's been really nice.
Oh, that's good. No, it's nice when you're on the road to be able to have some Hawks. Get some Go Hawks shouts out there in California.
Yes. California was like, stands were full of Hawkeyes.
Okay, well, I bet we had some of Kalina's family. We also have a Cali girl, 2 Cali girls. Tell us your story.
Yes. So I'm a junior. I am also from California. Coincidentally, Corona. So I got many jokes about the coronavirus and bringing it here, but that was not from me. My journey is kind of unique. My recruitment journey started when I was really young. I played for a super competitive travel softball team. And so my coach was big into recruitment and had very close connections with a lot of college coaches. So I'd say I started my journey probably my freshman year of high school, which was really young. And this was before the recruitment rule happened where recruiting couldn't occur before the junior year of high school. So the freshman year of high school, I had a really, really good summer. 1 week in Colorado, I think I had like 9 home runs, 20-something RBIs, like a great summer, and had many looks. However, I was told I was not allowed to pursue any of those because I had already committed to the University of Central Florida, which was tough, but I figured it was meant to be that, you know, I couldn't get any more looks because I was already committed. So I did commit prior to that summer, and Coach G was the coach at UCF as well. And I took many trips there, went on lots of visits, loved the school, loved the atmosphere. I also have a Hawaiian background, and so it just reminded me of Hawaii, the weather and everything like that. So I felt very at home. And then my junior going into senior year, I believe, I found out that Coach G received the job here at Iowa. And I found out through Twitter, which wasn't the best way to find out. So it was very hard at first, but I was optimistic that something would happen. And I sent Coach G a text just wishing her the best of luck. And 2 minutes later, she called me on the phone, and I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? And she just explained that, like, you know, she wasn't going to take a new job, but Iowa was home for her, and she wanted to be back with her family, and she couldn't pass up the opportunity. And she told me that if I wanted to take a trip to Iowa, she'd love to have me out here. And we continued our conversation, and I hung up. And the first thing I did was I told my dad, I said, I am never going to Iowa. It is cold. There is nothing there, and I know nobody there. And he was like, no, you are going to go. We're going to take a trip. And then if you don't like it, then that's fine. But we need to take a trip. So I ended up coming on a visit, and I remember being in the Uber on the way to Iowa City from Cedar Rapids, and my dad was on the phone with my mom, like, Kalana's going to hate it. There's nothing but cornfields. Like, there's nothing out here. And then we got to Iowa City, and I went on my visit, and I fell in love with Iowa City and the University of Iowa and everything it had to offer. I ended up committing. And then I decommitted from UCF, and I think it was probably one of the best choices I have ever made.
Oh, okay. Pronounce your name for me again, because I think I said it wrong.
Kalana.
All right, we're gonna get that right. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's okay. A lot of people.
Yeah, but you got to get your name right. Yeah,
I say it all the time. It's a thing where
I know,
I
I hate correcting people.
Yeah, my teacher one time went a whole year without saying my name right, and I never corrected her. I was like, yeah.
So what is about Iowa that when you arrived, I mean, it is kind of a crazy also recruiting story. So many consistencies with Brown. I mean,
yeah,
not a place you thought you'd end up.
No, not at all. And when I was considering it, I was like, you know what? Like, Iowa is really not somewhere I would take a vacation to. Like I could always go to Orlando. I could always go to Florida. And I knew that I wanted to move away from home. And I think it was so cool when I came here. It just felt like a family. Like, I could cross the street and cars would stop for me. Back home in California, you would get run over. Like, it was just the small things. I think it's awesome that there are no professional teams in Iowa, because University of Iowa sports is a big thing. Like, fans love the Hawks. And like, Iowa athletics is a big deal.
I can totally relate to you, because I'm also a Cali girl and grew up in San Diego and came here on my recruiting trip and just felt like home for all of those reasons too. And there's just a different pace of life. I always felt like it was just being able to like come into a frequency of living that just felt really comfortable to me. And even to this day, when I land and go to California to recruit, I have to like brace myself to like get on the freeway and deal with the traffic. And here it's just, it's like the 5 o'clock traffic when people leave the hospital is all we really have to deal with, So
it is.
Yeah,
it's a big, I would say, like, going home for the summer it's a change. Like, you have to get used to it again, because here is so slow and it's just so relaxing. Back in California, I get home and I'm like tense. I'm like, this is not Iowa. Like, I want to go back to Iowa. I miss Iowa. Like,
we were at the airport and I heard probably like 20 cars honking in like a span of 3 seconds. And I'm like, oh my God. People are like, go across the street. I'm like, what are we doing?
Stressed you out.
This place is not made for me.
Yeah, we got right when we got out of the airport, all the girls were like, oh, I hate it here.
I was like, God, people are rude. It's just
doesn't happen in North Liberty.
No, it's weird.
So you guys are three. I love hearing all these stories. Thank you for sharing them. And you're 3 great athletes. So I'm sure you had choices growing up in different sports and things you could play. Why softball? Throw it out to anyone who wants to take it.
Well, for me, when I first started, I was actually a cheerleader. And I told my parents, I was like, I'm not playing anything else. I was like, I'm a cheerleader till I die. That's what I want to do. I don't want to stop. My parents were like, okay, well, we're going to put your sister in softball. Like, if you want to. I was like, she can go ahead. I'm cheering. I'm cheering forever. Her first game, I saw the way they were playing. I saw the picture and I told my dad, I was like, I want to do that. And he was like, okay, grab a glove and let's go. So from then
on.
And
how old were you?
I was like 6 or 8.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. And I stopped cheering, and I've literally been playing softball, been pitching ever since. Haven't stopped. Yeah.
Wow. You're still a cheerleader in there, Bree.
You are.
Yeah, I still got my little cheer side.
Oh, I love the softball cheers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things. The dugout. You guys bring the energy. Yeah.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Okay. All right. What about Briley?
Yeah. So I obviously started with your typical T-ball and going in the rec leagues and stuff. And I think, like you mentioned, my uncle Wes, I grew up going to his games, even though I didn't remember them much. Like, softball and baseball was kind of just a culture in my family. Like, 6th birthday, got a softball glove. Well, first I started out right-handed. They're like, she's right-handed. Then they're like, okay, maybe she's left-handed. And then they're like, wait, no, I think I switched like 4 times. And I'm like, can you people come up with a decision? Like, what hand do I throw with? So anyways, I'm left-handed now. But I think softball, like, it's something I just fell in love with. Like, it was easy for me. Like, it was easy for me to fall in love with. Like, I played basketball. I was okay. It wasn't my favorite. Like, I tried other things, but I don't know. Something about softball just kind of clicked with me. I think it's something like you can set goals for yourself, accomplish those goals. It's just something to like look forward to and to challenge yourself. And I think this is one of the major sports that does set you up for success outside of sports too. Like the life lessons, the teammates. I mean, I'm sure with every sport, but I think, I don't know, just something about it was just, it really clicked with me as a kid. So,
yeah. No, I love that. I think that that's true. You're drawn to, if something feels right, and it was softball for you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's your story? Tell us. You were at a young age. Yeah.
Actually started playing soccer before softball. My mom played soccer while she was pregnant with me, and she wanted me to play soccer. And I am a big girl, and I was a big little girl. And so that didn't last very long. I was not a fan of running. I'm still not a fan of running. And so I quit soccer, I'd say at the age of like 5 or 6. I also did gymnastics, and we'll just not talk about that. But I quit soccer, and I really didn't have a choice. My parents told me I couldn't not do anything. And so they decided to put me into softball. So I didn't start softball till I was about, I would say 8 years old. And I remember playing in a rec league my first year. And after that first season, I made the All-Stars team. And I think that's what really started it. I think it really gave me that drive to continue to get better and to push myself. I'm a very competitive person, and I think softball allows me to kind of push myself. Yes, there are lots of failures, and it's a sport of failure, but that's how we learn and how we grow. So, yeah.
For sure. I, find so much value in terms of the resiliency that has to come from sports. I mean, it's like one of the biggest lessons is really just how to deal with failure. And then especially on a team, because you've got to, I mean, I use this word a lot, like you just can't fracture, you just have to stay together, and losing in difficult times just are so easy to be able to split apart from each other. And I think learning how to navigate relationships in difficult times, I mean, there's probably no better skill that you can come out of from college than figuring that out, because, we oftentimes highlight just all the great things that happen. And we have a lot of great things that happen within Iowa athletics. But I really think it's important to be like truth and vulnerable and be like, you know what, there's a lot of really disappointing times where you have to pull yourself up and communicate. And, I know you guys had an unbelievable season last year. I think finished 4th. I can totally resonate with that. We finished 4th last year. And I think both of us are kind of like not in the same range this year. It doesn't mean that everyone's not trying hard and giving their best and like really dedicated, but there are situations and circumstances that come about. And I mean, I don't think I'm any different person than I was last year. I'm sure you guys don't think you are either, but it's, and sometimes if you define yourself really only by the results, it gets to be kind of a real mental health struggle.
Yes. Yeah. I think as a team, we have struggled with that a little bit this year. It's been an uphill battle. We started the season off really well, and we've been struggling, which I think all teams, go through struggles and they face adversity. But as a team, I think it's brought us closer together. We understand each other, and we're here to support each other because we know these times are so difficult. We're a really close team, really, really close team, and we don't have a problem, I think, at all going to each other when we're struggling. We're very open about, our mental health and, like, what's going on, especially outside of softball. right? Like softball is a big part of who we are, but we're also amazing women. And when something is not right outside of softball, that's our priority. Yeah. So,
I mean, yeah, I would definitely say that like it has been an uphill battle, like Helena said. But I think going through these struggles, like when we do start coming on the other side of the mountain, I think that more great things will happen from being able to deal with these struggles. I mean, not everything in athletics is always picture perfect how everyone makes it. Like a lot of people don't know what we go through every single day. And I mean, yeah, the results aren't turning out the way we want them to, but I think it's teaching us a lot. I think it's teaching us how to, one, deal with our mental health, how to deal with failure, and how to just stay positive in times where things haven't always been great. I mean, if we can talk about these last 2 years, like COVID and everything, like, I mean, I think it's, now that we've had that, I think it's been easier to try to stay positive during hard times because things have just constantly been hard. But I think it's frustrating. It's like, when are we ever going to come out of this? So, I mean, we're all working through it together, which is I think the most important thing. I don't think we're fighting against each other. I think it's, like Helena said, bringing us closer together. So
I can totally identify with that. I mean, I think hopefully, you know, we would love to have some sort of wonderful, you know, uplifting story to finish the season where it's always this happy ending that, you know, and that could definitely happen. It could definitely happen for our team, and we're hoping and working hard, and you guys are too. But, you know, I think that the biggest thing that I've tried to communicate, you know, even with our tennis team, is just, you can't forget the value of athletics in the good times and the bad times. And you really can't wait for the result to allow yourself to have a good attitude and be positive. It's just kind of has to be there all the time. And you kind of have to have a short shelf life on a turnaround after something disappointing happens, which I am definitely have not mastered that. I mean, me neither. It is tough, you know, but, you know, we pick ourselves up and have a little time and a couple hours to regroup, and then you get back after it. And there isn't a team in the nation that hasn't gone through that. And there isn't anybody in their life that doesn't have highs and lows. Right. So I'm here for that. And I really appreciate you guys talking about that too, because, you know, that's also the sweetness of athletics is really the honesty and the ups and downs. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
So what do you guys have ahead now? I mean, we're taping this on April 20th, so this will air probably after you get back from your Illinois series. But kind of walk me through, as you're kind of like, okay, we're coming together, we're communicating, we're fighting, we're working. What do you have ahead, and what do you guys feel like when you could craft this in the way that you want to? What do you hope the final weeks of the season prove to be for you?
I feel like it's definitely, like, we talk a lot about, like, we could either let the past of what we've done, like, define who we are, or we can finish the season strong. Like Coach G says, the last 10 games are super important, and that's kind of where we are right now. So just cranking out and just giving 100% of what we got into the final games. I know it's Illinois, and then we have a couple midweek with Iowa State, UNI, then we have Northwestern and Purdue. So it's just really finishing strong and, like, showing that we are capable, because we haven't been showing, like, what we are capable of, and we'll get there, you know, we'll get there. So it's just really, like, putting things in the past, like, leaving that behind us and just finishing strong, like how we know what to do.
It's an interesting situation when you feel like the results aren't where they need to be, but you're not maximizing out on all of your potential. Like, it'd be one thing if the results weren't there and you're like, that's the best we've got. Yeah. But I don't know if I've felt like we've been able to just fire on all cylinders. Do you guys feel the same with you?
I mean, I feel like when one thing's working, the other thing's kind of not. And then the next day, the other thing's working. And
that's how I feel too.
It's just like, I don't think we've had a game where everything is working together. And I think when we do figure out how to make everything work together, like, we're going to be unstoppable. So
sometimes it feels like this to me. It's like a canoe and there's a hole, you know? And so then I'm going to go over there and block that hole, but then my right foot needs to really stretch to block the other. Oh, but then there's another one. And you're like, if I could just get all of these holes just like stabilize, then we're going to float really nicely, you know, but until then we're kind of taking on water.
That's exactly what's going on.
Yeah. No. And so in that respect, there's like hope, right? Cause you're like, wait, we're scary. Like I fear for the team that's going to show up the day when we actually like all fire on all cylinders. Cause we're really capable of it. It's just been for whatever reason, you know, not necessarily been in that flow.
Yeah. Totally. We all know we are very capable of it. We're a very good team. We are a very young team. So, you know, although this season hasn't really gone as planned yet, I'm really excited to see what the rest of the season looks like in the following years. So
I have a question for you. This is one of the things I grapple with a little bit. So when you have like a disappointing loss, do you feel like that has more weight than a victory or a win that you actually think like, oh, we should have done that? You know, like how are you like equally weighing the past in terms of like momentum for the next game?
Oh, yeah, that's I mean, I think definitely when we finally got that win against Drake, when we were kind of starting to go downhill, I think it was very, like we started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're like, okay, then we came into Minnesota. We beat them 9-8, like came back how many runs in the last inning?
We had 2 homers by Burns. Is that right?
Yeah. Shout out Kalena.
Yeah.
No, but I think we started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then I think one more loss after that, instead of going down a little bit, I think we sucked back down to where we were. So I think finding that balance of the wins and losses, not getting too down when we're already down, like trying to keep the positive energy when we do something good. Like our coach asked us the other day, like, what do we want from this game? And I was like, honestly, I think we need to focus on just getting better than we were the day before. If we're going to start putting too big of goals ahead of us, that's when we start playing with pressure rather than just playing the game that we know how to play.
Yeah. It's you know, the results are always hanging over you, and it's kind of how much can you move that to the side. And I think we're all in athletics trying to get into that flow state where you're not letting your thoughts paralyze you, but you're just kind of trying to be free. And when the result gets to a little bit out of reach, it seems like it can kind of be a little bit more in the forefront.
Yeah, it definitely takes over. It does.
And it's interesting because last season, in terms of our team, we were kind of right on the cusp of making the NCAA tournament all year. And you would have thought that would have been like, made the result be like really huge in our minds. But actually, I feel like the result is even bigger this year than last year. It's just an interesting momentum switch as that kind of takes off. So the other thing that I don't know, one of the things that I think has helped me is just taking time to give space to gratitude. So what I want to do is a little fun exercise with the 3 of you. And so each of you maybe to say about the other 2 what you're grateful for about them. And I think like sometimes this is just like so fun to hear, and you'll get like the little like magic that takes place on a team with teammates. So I don't know. Riley, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Breathe.
I'm going to like start blushing over here.
Don't start blushing. I am thankful that you have the ability to make my bad day better. And you're just funny without even trying to be funny. And Kalena, I like how you're somebody I can go to about any mental health struggles or anything I'm struggling with, because you're a very good person to confide in.
Thank you.
I love it. Makes me smile. Brianna.
I would say the same thing about Kalena. Like, she's someone you can go to. Like, if you're not having the best day, Kalena's there, and she'll definitely listen and like hear what you have to say, and she knows what to tell you. Like, if you're not feeling okay, like she'll be there to tell you like, hey, like you're gonna get through it. It's okay. And I think that's really important to have on a team, like somebody to do that for you. And for Riley, the exact oh my God. When I look at you, I like start laughing. Like, I'm just so happy to see you. We've been roommates twice, like when we travel, and it's honestly the greatest thing ever because I have the best time with you. It's just so much fun. And your snorts make me laugh all the time. It's amazing. You guys are both just amazing women overall.
Guys almost start tearing. All right, Kalena.
Briley, I love your snort, but besides that, you're also just somebody that I feel so comfortable talking to about everything. Like, besides softball, my mental health struggles, because those are there. And you know, we're similar in that area, and I think it's great that I feel comfortable enough to talk to you about it. And Bree, just everything about you, you're just such a kind soul, and you bring so much positive energy to Iowa softball in my life. And yeah, I'm just so thankful for both of you guys.
It really is like the magic of it all, right? And there'll be like 20 years from now and you guys will be so excited to see each other on a reunion and remember like all these great memories. Some of them just come from hanging out in the hotel rooms together.
Yeah.
Playing bananagrams.
Yeah, definitely.
So much fun. So one of the things I've noticed you guys have been definitely open about talking about is like the mental health. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, whatever you're comfortable sharing with? Because I think that that's something we should really give time and space to.
Yeah. I guess I can start. My mental health journey has been, it's been one. I started last year, and I was diagnosed with an eating disorder in the fall of my sophomore year. And that was very, very tough. It was a very tough time. And at first, it wasn't something that I was willing to share because I didn't know what people thought about it. And it was just difficult because comments would be made from family members and other sorts. And I knew they didn't really know what was going on, yet they still hurt. And so that occurred. I was, seeking help for that. And then I was faced with an injury, and I ended up having shoulder surgery in October, the same fall season that I got diagnosed. And, our season starts in January. We start training, and I had surgery October 20th, and they wanted me back by January, which I thought, wow, that's a quick turnaround. And so, day after surgery, started rehab, went through rehab, went over Christmas break, came back, and we have spring training. So it's a week-long, 2-a-day practice, very exhausting, tiring training time. And I thought that I was going to be completely fine, and I wasn't. I was in lots of pain still. Very limited, but I wanted to be there, and I wanted to, perform. My freshman year here at Iowa was one of my best seasons. I had a really good season, and then it got cut short because of COVID, and I had many accolades. And so I thought that my sophomore season, I was going to,
pick up where you left off.
Yes, pick up where I left off. And that just wasn't the case. Like I said, I was dealing with an injury. And so the expectations I had for myself were not achievable at all, considering that I was still injured. And when I didn't meet those expectations, it was like the end of my world. It was really bad. And the coaches started to notice. And I remember being at Minnesota, and my parents had come to see me, and the coaches stopped them in the lobby, and they were very concerned, like, what's going on? Like, how can we help her? And I had no idea this was going on until I got a call from my dad saying, you need to come speak with us right now. Like, your coaches are very concerned about you. And I came up to their hotel room, and I sat there and cried for about an hour, and they just, basically told me that I need to be open with them, and like the goals I had for myself were not achievable, considering that I had taken lots of time off for my injury and that I was not 100%. And that was tough. It was really tough But I think once realizing that, it changed my mindset a little, that like, yeah, like maybe I'm being too hard on myself. Like I have to keep things realistic, you know, like I'm not practicing as much as I was or as I should because I'm still hurt, you know? And so I was still getting help for the eating disorder, and that got way better. So that's great. And then I was dealing with that stuff. Went into summer, you know, took some time away from softball. It was great. Things had gotten way better. And then came back for the fall, had an awesome fall. And then once I came back from Christmas break, stuff was still just not the same. Like the love I had for softball wasn't there. Like it felt like a job. It wasn't the same. And I knew something was off again because it wasn't like me. Like I'm a very competitive person and I love softball. And for me not to want to be at practice or be around anybody, like I knew something was off. And at that point I had stopped seeing somebody. And once again, I finally opened up to my parents about it, and they were like, well, you remember what happened last year? Like, you didn't really communicate with your coaches. Like, I think you should really communicate with them this time before it gets too far out of hand. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So we were in Oklahoma City over spring break, and I talked to one of the coaches and just explained to her what was going on. And she was so supportive of it and was like, you know what, Kalena, like, you need to do what's best for you. If that's taking some time away from softball, that's that. It, like, whatever you need, I'm here to support you. She recommended a new therapist, and so I got in to see her. And it's crazy because I was telling her that, you know, when I don't reach my goals, it's like the end of the world. But it's also like that in school. Like I think of the worst outcome all the time. Like I think that if I make an error, strike out on the field, like my scholarship money is going to be taken, when realistically it's not. And so when I met with this therapist, we were talking, and she was like, you know what, Kalena, like you sound like a perfectionist. And I was like, yeah, I am. Like it all makes sense now. Like, and so since then I have really opened up about, I guess, my mental health journey, because it's such a big thing. And so many people struggle with the same things that I'm struggling with, yet they don't share because they're not comfortable enough. And I know what that was like. And so I want to be, you know, like the outlet for others, and I want others to feel comfortable, even if they don't want to share, like just being an outlet for them. Yeah, I mean, mental health is a big part of our game, and I think of all athletics. And so just being vulnerable and like sharing my journey can go a long way. I did a couple videos through athletics that were posted at our mental health game, and that was the game against Minnesota that we won, that I hit 2 home runs. And I just remember my dad telling me like 5 or 6 times, like, I am so proud of you, Kalena, but not for your performance, for your like leadership and your willingness to share your journey about mental health. So yeah, that's kind of my story. It's a long one, but
thank you for that. No, I really appreciate you doing that. And I think it is really, really powerful. And I really appreciate you guys and all the things we're talking about today, because I think all of these things are so important and vulnerable and relatable. Mm-hmm. Really. Like, I think that, you know, I'm inspired by the younger generation and their willingness to communicate and to really kind of set a new perspective for, you know, the society in terms of what we're accepting and what we're talking about.
Totally.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys. I really, really appreciate this. And I honestly really wish for me, I'm all in here on softball, like after having heard your stories and being able to relate with you guys. And I hope like our Hawkeye community is too, because that's what makes this special, understanding that we're human and it's hard and we're working together and we have good hearts. We're doing our very, very best. And you guys deserve to be supported, and a lot of good wishes going your way to finish strong for sure.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm on board. Well, I know in a student athlete's life, you guys got a lot going on. So I'm going to let you guys get back to whatever is on the rest of your agenda for this evening. I'm going to follow you against the Illini and Northwestern. And in those midweek games, definitely like beating the Cyclones. So
Yes.
we'll give you, we'll be cheering hard for you guys. Thank you all so much for coming in today. I think our student athletes are just what we are most proud about here at the University of Iowa. So it's great to see the three of you. And as always, go Hawks! Woo!
This has been HERkys Voice. The mission of the HERkys program is to help our Hawkeye community learn, support, and engage with Iowa women's athletics. To learn more about the HERkys initiative, visit herkys.hawkeyesports.com. Hawkeye fans, remember to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. Once you become a Fight for Iowa podcast subscriber, you'll automatically receive the latest episodes of the Fight for Iowa podcast, the HERkys Voice podcast, Hawk Talk replays, exclusive game day content, and more. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Hawkeye Sports Network.